My very first job after I dropped out of college was a busboy at Rainforest Cafe, and I was making $5 per hour plus tips. And that came out to about $500 per week, which is ultimately only about $2,000 per month. And this ultimately brought my salary to about $24,000 per year. However, now after over a few years consistently working hard, now bringing in over $200,000 per month, which is a very big jump from $2,000 per month to now making $10,000 per day. So in this video, I want to share with you all exactly how I was able to do this and become financially free in just 18 months. If we haven't met, I'm Arturo Johnson, and I run a consulting business who does a little over $300,000 per month with a social media marketing agency, as well as I have a coaching program that helps entrepreneurs to start, grow, and scale a social media marketing agency and coaching program to 100K per month with systemized client acquisition, and has done over $8 million in course sales. It wasn't always like this. It wasn't always this easy. I wasn't making $10,000 per day until I stumbled across this secret business model. And that's when everything changed for me. So by the end of this video, you're gonna know exactly what to do to become financially free, because not too long ago, I was exactly where you were till this happened. And I know that social media glorifies being an entrepreneur, but this is actually really hard. This is probably, besides having kids, one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. At the same time, it's probably the most rewarding and the most fulfilling to get text messages, to get emails, to get posts of people saying that I've changed their life and their lives would never be the same. And if it wasn't for me, where they would be instead. Now their trajectory in their life is in a different place. That's a really amazing thing. It is the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's by far above and beyond one of the most rewarding things. In the beginning, I started out with a corporate job, and I would go to this office. I would get up at 4:40 in the morning, way back in 2018. And I live in a small town 20 minutes south of Nashville. And I would have to drive 45 minutes, actually 55 minutes, now that I think about it, all the way to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, which is clear across the town, to get to the office to make cold calls all day in this cubicle. And I would sit there, and I just had this entrepreneurial itch to make it, and I just wanted to do more for myself. And so I did this during the day, and at night I waited tables at probably one of the best restaurants to ever be built in Nashville, called the Southern Steak and Oyster. This was hard, man. I was in this vicious cycle at this time where I was just really tired of doing the same old thing. I had been in the service industry since 2004, started out busting tables and worked my way all the way up to a server, bartender. But again, I was in that vicious cycle of going to work at 4 p.m., working all day to the evening, getting to work at 4 p.m., working till about midnight, getting off of work, really stressed, making about $300, going across the street to the local taco spot, having a few tacos to discuss work and debrief, have a couple drinks, and then that would turn into going to another bar, and then 3 a.m., right, going home, getting up, sleeping till 11, having lunch, taking a nap, and then getting ready to work. And this was my life for probably about 15 years, man. I don't have a ton of regrets because my life has turned out to be absolutely amazing. But if there's one thing that I wish I would have seen a little bit faster, it was to really just like shift and not waste all of that time hanging out and making friends and relaxing and feeling like I was doing something. Because at this time, right, I had transitioned from being a busser to now working at a really nice restaurant. So I was making about $1,000 a week. So now I'm making $50,000 a year. So I felt like, for a server working 4 days a week, that I had made it. But man, that vicious cycle had taken over my life, and I just really just felt low. And now as I'm thinking about it, it just makes me kind of sad because it really just kind of kindled my fire. And I felt like I was just sleepwalking through life. And it wasn't until I hit this critical point where I was just tired and fed up, and I actually just woke up. This was a game changer for me. So one day at the end of 2018, I decided that I wanted to make some changes. So I dove right into the world of self-help. And I remember I was at my friend Adam's house. He was like, hey man, I just got this book. It was absolutely amazing. It was about Phil Jackson. It was a really thick book and he gave it to me. I was like, dude, I don't have time to read that. He was like, well, you can actually listen to it if you want. And there's this software, this app that you can listen to it, and you can put it at like 1.5 or 2x speed, and you can get through this book in half the time. And dude, in a couple of days, you could have this book finished just by listening to it in your car. And that's when my world changed. The first thing I did was I got that book. I didn't end up reading it, but they suggested another book to me, seen before, which was You're a Badass by Jen Sincero. Now, that previous summer, that book was placed into my wife's hand and she was reading on the beach, and she just kept saying that this book was speaking to her life. And so I downloaded it, and for some reason I was just driving into work to wait tables one day, and I just started listening to the book. And from then, my life was never the same, because I stopped listening to music and started really diving into self-help. I got really big into Zig Ziglar, got really big into Les Brown, got really big into Eric Thomas, got really big into Jim Rohn. And by far, Jim Rohn has had the most impact on my internal speak, my self-help, and my personal belief, just because the way he was able to put words together really made me believe that if he could change, then I could change. I was now on this journey to see what was possible. I was inspired. I was excited about the future, and I started looking up like, man, I still got a lot of time left. I haven't ruined everything. I haven't lost it all. And that's when I went on this huge journey of personal development and growth. And that transitioned me into wanting to become an entrepreneur. So I started searching a bunch of things online, and I came across life insurance industry. This is where the story gets really good, because I'm cold calling during the day, trying to sell life insurance, and then I'm waiting tables at night, and it's not going too well. I did this for 9 months, and this by far was probably the most tumultuous and the most difficult time of my life. We just bought a house, just got married, and I jumped into this entrepreneur journey, and my wife is just like, okay. And so I had all these aspirations. I stopped working the restaurant, went full-fledged into the entrepreneurship. And those 9 months, though, looking back on it, that was the $1 million year of my life. But the first 9 months of that, man, I struggled so hard. And that's what ultimately what led me to making to $300,000 per month, was because I had this problem that nobody could seem to solve. So when I went to go sell life insurance by the day, I realized that every time I asked somebody exactly what I needed to do to have success, nobody could tell me. After a few months of promising my wife that I was going to make $10,000 and this and that, she started to lose faith in me, and then she felt like I was lying. So now I got a big problem. I'm not making a bunch of money. My wife's losing hope. She now feels like I'm selling a dream. She's shouldering the whole load for the family financially. And now I just look like somebody that is just stuck in delusion, and the bills need to be paid. At this point, I'm like, okay, I need to figure this out. I'm like, what are we doing here? And so I realized that problem that I was having is that if you don't have a solid warm market to just make a couple of sales to get you through the first month or so, then you were screwed. Well, my whole network was servers, and they made a lot of cash, but they really didn't care too much about planning for the future. They were living day by day. So that left me to quickly realize that this wasn't going to work with me using my warm market. So the only option I had then was to start to reach out to cold markets. And when I got to that point, I realized I didn't have any leads. So I asked the top guys at that time. Guy graduated from Vanderbilt, been working there for 5 years, was only making $200,000 per year. And at that time, I thought that was a ton of money. So I asked him what he was doing, and he was like, oh, I just did this and that and this, but he didn't give me a straight answer. And that's when I realized, it's like, oh, these people don't have a predictable system to generate leads and booked appointments. Thus, that's why they can't tell me. And so at that point, I'm frustrated, I'm broke, and now I'm just angry, right? Because nobody can tell me what I need to do. And I keep promising my wife every single day, I'm getting up at 4:40 in the morning, believing that this is going to work out. And I keep telling my wife that this is going to be awesome and I'm going to be this big, successful person. And it's not lining up. So once I sought out to do that, that was the only thing I focused on. And finally, I did it. I cracked the code because I almost got a divorce. So there was a lot of pressure on me to really figure this out, and a lot riding on it, because at this point it was awkward at the house. I wasn't making any money. I was so frustrated, like eating dinner, but I'm not even tasting the food. I'm not even present with my family because I'm just so down dumps because this is just not working out the way I thought it was. At that point, that's when everything changed. I was able to develop this lead generation system. I got it to work for myself. I went from sitting in the back of the class, because we would have these client builders where we would all get together in these little huddles. We would like rent out this lodge, and everybody would sit down at these little tables, and we would talk about our numbers, and I would just sit way in the back. But at this point, this month, I was the top person, so I sat in the front row this time. And once I realized that this was working for me, and now I felt like I belong, I was like, I wonder if anybody else in this group is having the same problem, because there was only like a top 20 on the board, and there was about 100 people in this room. And that's when I realized, like, oh, if I figure this out for myself, maybe some of these people would end up being my customers. Lo and behold, I didn't even realize that I was creating a lead gen system that would make me almost $10 million at this time, right? I'm just being perspicacious and looking at an opportunity. So from there, I used that system. The next month, I taught it to another guy, used that. And then that's when I was like, okay, I got it. I figured out something that would work. Now the only problem that I have is what am I going to do with it? And that's when I stumbled across some marketing from Sam Ovens from Searching Online. And that's when I got into digital marketing and starting a social media marketing agency. I know you may be thinking like, Arturo, okay, that's great, but I've been searching online. I've been trying a bunch of things. I've tried multiple businesses, multiple jobs, but things aren't working out. And I would say, I've been in your shoes, right? I tried everything. I tried real estate investing, crypto, tried to be a firefighter. That was probably one of the toughest seasons of my life. I actually took the test in Nashville, got all the way to the end, passed the test with flying colors, the physical test. I even tried to do it in Indiana and drove up there to take the test. And that was probably one of the highest highs and one of the lowest lows, because I just felt like I wasn't respected. When I was telling everybody I wanted to be a firefighter, they just looked at me so proud. At that time, I got into the best shape of my life just to get through, and got denied and failed to be accepted by the fire department both times. And that is when I was like, okay, this is another sign that I need to just go and do the entrepreneur thing. Because at that time, I wasn't too sure, but I wanted to have like a safety net or a backup plan. And that's when I was deciding, I was like, okay, this is the moment now for me to go all in on this. And that's when everything changed. I can remember sleeping on the floor on an air mattress. And at this time I had this small apartment, and I didn't have any furniture in it. In the beginning, it wasn't easy at all. I took a screenshot of this too, which is crazy, because my bank account was a negative $90. I had two accounts in there, checking in and savings, and both of them were overdrawn. And I had a negative $90 in this account. And man, this was probably one of the toughest times in my life, because nothing was working. Right, I'll have a little bit of a glimpse of hope, but it just wasn't connecting. And I'm like, okay, this has to work, right? Or it has to work, because there was no plan B, because I had burned the ships. Firefighter thing had fallen through. I had stopped waiting tables. I had left the insurance industry. And so I'm like, man, I have to make this work. My wife's like, you got 1 month to figure this out. And so had to get to work. But man, this was one of the toughest times in my life. So I did what any other aspiring entrepreneur would do, is I dove into education. And in that year of 2019, at this point, I probably read over 100 books. I just dove in head first, learning everything about marketing, sales, persuasion, every single course. I studied everything. This was a huge turning point for me, because then I realized that personal development was the first thing I needed to do. I needed to change a character trait and to be optimistic about the future. Then the second thing I needed to do, I needed to stack information on top of having a positive outlook on life to give me some skills. And from there, those books gave me ideas as an optimistic person, that if they worked for these people and these books, that if I use them, that I could probably get the same result. So I launched my business, Arturo Johnson Consulting, April of 2019, digital marketing agency. And I can remember it like it was yesterday. I signed my very first client. I was doing some outreach during the day, and then I had to finish up some shifts because I think I had like 2 weeks or 3 weeks left to finish. And I remember signing up my first client, and I was pulling into work. He wanted to take a call at 4:30. So I had my pre-shift. And then after that, I ran downstairs into the stairwell and I closed my first client for a whopping $500 per month. And man, that's when everything changed for me, because I remember thinking, this guy doesn't know me and he has such a big problem that he was willing to give a complete stranger $500 over the phone. And he gave me his credit card information and I ran it and it worked. And I was like, oh my gosh, I did it. So obviously I was elated. I ran through my shift. I pretty much don't even remember that. And that's when I had got home. I set up everything in this same space. There was nothing but a kitchen table here. It was just me with this Lenovo laptop, and I got to work for this guy, and that's what started Arturo Johnson Consulting. And I got my very first client for social media marketing, doing lead gen for life insurance agents. So I worked with him for probably just 1 month. Now that I think about it, about 45 days actually, because about 24 days in, he's like, this isn't working for me. This isn't working out. My LinkedIn is growing, but I'm not making any revenue. So my very first client, I actually had to give him a refund. And his name was Stephen Noe. It's Stephen Noe from Boston. And now that I think about it, it's funny how things work. It's like you start out on this journey thinking of how it's going to go. But what actually happens is you don't really learn what to do until you start doing it. See, most people try to wait until they know what to do and then start doing it. But you don't learn what to do until you actually start doing it. For example, I could sit here and I could watch a video on how to ride a bike on YouTube all I want. But it isn't until I actually start riding the bike that I actually figure out what to do when the bike goes like this, or when it slides out, or when I need to put on the brake. And so after working with him, he actually had this software that he didn't actually know what to do with it, which was an automation software. And that was a software that I actually needed in order to take my agency to 6 figures in 6 months and 29 days, because he had this software that you had to be referred into. I got access to his, reached out to the developers, asked for an affiliate account for myself. And so in that 30 days, I learned how to use it by practicing on him, gave him a refund. And now I have this software. I took what I learned from that, from working on him. I got my next probably 4 clients over the next 6 months, because I went from charging $500 to $1,000 to $1,500. And in 6 months and 29 days, I did it. I was now making $10,000 per month. And man, talk about feeling rich. This is probably the most exciting time of my life. Just making 10 grand a month. Just being able to look at my wife and say, honey, we're going to be okay. And not only that I just made it, is that it was coming in every single month after month after month. And so at this point, right, felt like I had made it. I cracked the code. And this is when everything changed for me. I was no longer worried about money. I could start to go on the trips that I want. We could start to go on vacations. I was now able to do some of the things that I always want to do in my life and be fulfilled, because I was impacting people. I was an important person. I was a breadwinner. I was a businessman. Now I actually had some financial freedom. I was able to retire my mom. Me and my wife was actually able to have our dream wedding. We have been able to take some of our dream vacations and travel. And now I'm not bound by a job, so that I have financial freedom. I'm able to work when and wherever I want, and I'm able to work where I want, and I'm able to work on my own terms, which is now the ultimate freedom. Fast forward today, I now coach some of the top entrepreneurs in the space. These amazing masterminds where we get together, pour into these guys, gals, and some of these folks, I know this might sound crazy, are doing 20, 30, even $100,000 per month in their businesses. It's just amazing to see where I've come in such a short period of time that is honestly just feels surreal. Sometimes I just want to pinch myself, because I cannot believe going from making $2,000 a month to making $50,000 a year to now making $10,000 per day. It seems absolutely crazy to say. And back then, I used to think that like there's no way that anybody can make this kind of money, or that rich people are evil, or that they're just like keeping the money from me. And it wasn't until I realized that I needed to develop, right? I needed to develop personal skills. I needed to develop mastery of skill sets in the marketplace. And then I needed to come up with something that could solve a big problem for people. So I needed to have the right mindset, the right skill set, and the right tool set. And that, my friends, is an asset. Assets equal income. The most successful people in the world either have the best assets or they have the most of them. Your only asset cannot be your ability just to go to work. You have to create something that's an asset that's independent of your time, whether it's a service or product, to be able to offer something that you can do that can make you a high income. And that's why social media marketing is so powerful, is because you can now solve a big problem for these business owners and charge retainers for ROI services, because there's one problem that 30 million businesses in the US have, is we all need more customers. So I hope you're getting this. I hope this is inspiring you. I hope just sharing this journey with you. I know I'm kind of chasing rabbits, but this is a good rabbit, because as I'm thinking through this, I cannot believe that this has happened to me in less than 5 years to make almost $10 million. It's insane. And so at this point, I'm starting to get tons of results. We got 120 testimonials on the YouTube channel. My Instagram has gone from 900 followers all the way up to 90,000 at this point. And people are starting to ask me what I'm doing. I'm teaching people all the success principles and the tactics and the strategies of what I'm doing. I'm now starting to speak on stages, thousands of people in these stages. And one of my most favorite times was sharing the stage with Andy Elliott, with Bradley, with Jen Gottlieb, and Eric Thomas, my mentor, person that whenever I was having tough times, I would just put on something of his when I had some self-doubt. And now being able to share the stage with him was absolutely amazing. And one of the cool times from that story was we were speaking at this event for entrepreneurs in Dallas. And I'm standing outside at 7 a.m. to running a couple miles because I'm about to speak on stage. And Eric Thomas had just spoke the night before. And guess who comes out the door? It's just me and him. And he's got on flip-flops, a backpack, and some sandals. And I realized that, oh man, this is my time to meet my mentor, my idol. It's funny how things work when you put yourself in a position, because for some reason his Uber was late. And we know that Uber is usually timed up to just let you know when they're coming out the door. For some reason, at this divine moment, his Uber driver made the wrong turn. So he and I had about 5 minutes to kind of share out there and speak. But this was absolutely incredible. So it's funny how when you're working hard and you got your head down, that your dreams come true. And like Kevin Garnett says, anything is possible. Anyway, that's kind of corny, but it's so true that when you put yourself in a position and you start working on something, doors start to open up. And it's funny how things actually start working out for you. And here's the funny thing is when you start working on it, it starts to work because it's supposed to. So the whole entire point of this whole video is to share my story, more importantly to inspire you, because that's when everything changed. And this is from the power of coaching, having a mentor. Shout out to Sam Evans, because if it wasn't for him, man, I don't know where I'd be. Getting that one email to incentivize me to join this program, that changed my entire life. He showed me exactly how to start and to scale my social media marketing agency. He showed me step by step what I needed to do to reach out to clients, how to do appointments, how to close sales, and then ultimately how to deliver the service to get my client world-class results. That's the power of coaching. So if you're out there and you're watching this video and you're hearing my journey and you're one of 3 people, you're somebody that is in the same position that I was in, is looking to better your life, they're looking to go to the next level, just feeling stuck, or you're somebody that is in a career, you've gone to college, you spend 4 to 12 years dedicating your life to a degree, and you're not happy and you're feeling stuck because your identity is tied to that. I want to say that you can change, right? It's okay to start over, because sometimes, right, we need to renovate. What's renovate? Renovate means to tear out all of the old and install it new. And I think at this time, you just need to recreate yourself. And that's what I had to do. Nothing wrong with that. And then there are the entrepreneurs. You've been on your journey and you've kind of started your business, already, and you're starting to have the self-doubt that, oh, maybe it's not working, or you're not getting to your goals as fast as you should be. And now you're starting to get down on yourself, like things that you're saying, you're kind of feeling like an imposter. But what I would say to you is all work works, right? The work is either working for you or on you. So continue to do the work, continue to show up every single day. And you only need to do a few things to be successful in this business. You need to make sure that you're generating leads. You need to really get good at sales, and you need to make sure you deliver world-class results to your clients. If you do those three things, anything is possible. And the last piece is remove all attachment to the goal and focus on getting clients and then getting your clients the best results. And the rest, my friend, will only take time. That's the only difference. So don't compare your chapter 1 to my chapter 20. Even though I'm making $10,000 per day, I was where you were, and I was hungry to get to this point. But the only difference is that I got started a lot sooner than you, and I didn't quit. So keep going. I hope this video inspires you. This is my story, how I went from quitting my job to making $50,000 per week in my business. Hope this video was helpful. I'll see you in the next video.